Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's Oriana from Switzerland. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director, producer, and today this is kind of my first real video on how to make a short film. So this video covers how to plan your short film, then story essentials, how to find crew and cast, where to shoot, your locations, planning ahead, pre-production, very important, shooting, post-production, and then finishing your film and getting feedback. So thank you for being here, thank you for watching, and let's get into the video. So if you want to make a short film, I applaud you. The first step is always the hardest, so getting started. If you know who your main character is, you can shape the story from there. And it's always important to have an inner transformation for the main character. So maybe your main character in the beginning is very shy and they are afraid of public speaking, and then the call to action might be that they have to speak in front of an audience. And the question is, how do they overcome that fear? How do they make it work? You should plan at least a month, in my opinion, for a screenplay. And you can also test this by talking to friends or family and telling them in like 3 sentences what your story is about, what your main character is about, and then watching their reaction and also asking like, do you think this is compelling? Do you think this is fresh? Do you think it's interesting? And if not, please give me some pointers how I could improve the story and the character. So after you've written your screenplay, you can look for actors. And of course, they want to know who they're playing. So you have to have a good idea already of what the characters are like, what's required age-wise, look-wise, ethnicity, and like, I don't know if there's physical requirements, like you have to be able to do kung fu, for example, or riding, which I don't recommend for your first film. It's too complicated, but just as an example, or fencing, or I don't know, like special skills. The actors need to know that if that's involved. When I was casting my Bachelor film, it was actually quite funny, because it was quite a physical role and some people were up to the job and others were not. So that's always part of casting. There's also fun moments. If you are passionate about directing, then please find an equally passionate camera person and ideally also a passionate sound person. That's very handy because they know what they're doing, or they're really interested in learning. And B, likely they know where to get equipment for their department. So like the camera person might already own a camera that's better than your smartphone. If you don't, then you use your smartphone, but most people that are studying camera do have access to some sort of camera that's better than a smartphone. Like when I was studying in Munich, we could lend the equipment from university. It was included in the fee of studying. So that's what we did. We actually went from Munich home to Switzerland for the weekend to shoot my longest film yet, my 78-minute film. Shot Saturday and Sunday. And then on Sunday evening we went back to Munich to study for another full week. So that was intense, but we were able to get the camera from there, get a little lighting suitcase from there with C-stands, with reflectors, with foils and so on. So that was an improvement to what we had at the time, which was like a basic camcorder. So you just do the best you can with the equipment you have, and it's all about passion at this point. You just have to make it very clear that you can't pay people, but with your first short film, that's okay. Like I'm saying that to you, that's okay. You just have to make it clear up front. Don't make any false promises, because that will only get you in trouble and make you seem unprofessional and insincere, which we don't want that. Next is planning about locations, which also ties into the story. So what you have to bear in mind is why I'm also doing this overview first, so you can consider that while writing the script as well, is don't pick a story where you need like 7 locations or more. Pick a story where you can get done in 1 or 2 locations. Preferably the place where you live or where your parents live, somewhere where you have access to for free and you know the people, and you just have to make it clear in advance that on the day of shooting it has to be clean and it has to be quiet. There can't be any renovations going on because sound won't be usable if that's the case. Of course, that's like an extreme example, but just to make you understand, sound is very important, clean sound. So that's why I'm also recommending you get your sound person, even for your first film. Now you've got your crew together, like your basic crew, which is you as a director, a cinematographer, a sound person, and at least 1 assistant. Why do you need an assistant? Because so often there's like an errand to run, someone has to leave set. The 3 of you, your core team, you cannot leave set, otherwise shooting will stand still. That's why you need an assistant. There's also someone who can go away from set to make a phone call if needed. Yeah, whatever. Pick something up from the pharmacy, like we've had so many stories, but long story short, the essential thing is you do need someone that could go away from set to fetch something and come back. The next important part is, as I mentioned, locations. So you have to scout every location with the camera person. Sound person doesn't absolutely have to be there, you just have to take notes. Like for instance, with my short film All In, we were shooting like the exterior, the village was very close to Zurich airport, and that was a problem for sound because there were so many airplanes coming in, and that's something that if you're just starting out you might not realize, but airplanes are actually a disaster for sound. So we would have to go again and then again just for sound, because there was an airplane that was on the audio and you cannot filter it out really. So that's something to bear in mind. Just like if it was like next to a highway, your location, or something that's very loud, or even if there's a ventilator in the room, that's why you have to take a look at every single location and be very aware of what is there going on in the surroundings. If you're filming in the kitchen and you can hear the refrigerator, that's a problem. So you need to talk to the person owning this kitchen. Can we maybe move the refrigerator to a different room for the day of shooting? Of course, if you're like shooting in a public place, you also have to get a permit from the city or the town that you're shooting in. So there's always someone that's responsible for giving out those permits. It's not impossible to do that on your first film, but if you can avoid it, I would avoid it. With my films, we always did get the permits in writing, of course. Same goes for agreements with actors. You have to have that in writing, otherwise you might get into trouble later. It would be a pity if you cannot show your film in the end because you don't have the paperwork. I know that was a lot of information. I don't want to scare you, and we will get into the details of every single big point in the next few videos. So please let me know in the comments what interests you the most, or what you really have some questions about, so I can address those. When you come to shooting day, it's important to offer a hot meal every 6 hours. That's like an unwritten rule in filmmaking. Doesn't matter if it's summer or winter, it's just like a hot meal every 6 hours has to be there. especially if you don't pay your cast and your crew. When it comes to payment, I believe it's fair if you either pay everyone or no one. I don't believe it's fair to pay actors but not pay crew, but that's my opinion. Because, you know, everyone has the same passion for the project ideally, so I think it's not fair to pay some people and not pay others. Actors, why would they want to work for free? That's a question I get a lot. And also when I asked AI to script this video, which I just looked at it but I couldn't really use it. AI thinks that actors always have to be paid. Of course everyone would like to get paid, that's clear. But why do actors still do a short film if it's a nice story and an interesting character that maybe they haven't played in a while? Because they always need new showreel material. So they always have to update their showreel. They get nice scenes of themselves playing a part that shows off an aspect of their skill. So that's why they do it. And crew, the same goes for crew. They want to gain experience. So if you can sell it like that, and also, of course, praise them for everything they did right, for everything that went well, treat them nicely, feed them well, very important. I actually got really nice feedback on All In for the food that we had. Like half of the shooting days my parents were cooking, and the people on set were raving about the food, so that's always good. And it just keeps spirits up. So if people are hungry, they get hangry. So you really want to avoid that at all costs. So please get good and also healthy snacks, not just sugar bombs, but also like some fruit, fresh fruit, some nuts, good coffee, good water. Energy drinks are always in demand because people have to stay active and awake. And as I said, a hot meal every 6 hours. Don't plan for more than 10 hours for a shooting day because you might run a bit late, but you should be able to let people go after 12 hours. And that includes setting up time, so from call time until it's a wrap of the day. So after shooting comes post-production, which is editing, getting the film finished, from assembling all the clips. If you have an audio person that just does audio, usually the audio has to be synced up with the video clips first. So I did that for a feature. That's the assistant editor's job. Let me tell you, it was quite tedious, but it's very important work. It also ensures that your sound is good, and usually you do have camera audio and external audio, and you can take camera audio to help sync the external audio. And once you've assembled all the clips, you do a rough cut just to see like every scene after the other, and then you actually start editing the film, like, you know, in terms of story, in terms of timing. Maybe, I mean, there's always something that has to be cut out. And once you have picture lock, so once you're happy with the cut itself, you don't change the order or the length or anything in the picture, then you can do color grading and sound mixing and scoring or just film music. So that's basically the steps of post-production, just very shortly. Once you've done that, in the end, you can of course add the end credits, so mention every single person that was involved in making the film, and also titles and everything, graphics, effects, and then you can export your film, and the best part, you can show it to your audience. You should always do a crew premiere first. That's like just a screening for everyone that was involved in making the film, because you kind of owe them that, and also they shouldn't be having to wait for like a year after you've shot it, because they're always curious to see how it turned out, and it can motivate them greatly to maybe work on your next project with you, which would be great, right? We will get into all of that in more detail in the next video. Thanks for staying this long, and I'm really excited for your first film to get made. I hope you can see a little bit where the journey is going now. Maybe you already have like a logline, which is a one-sentence summary of your film. Drop that down below. You can also exchange, give feedback, the log lines in the comments. That would be lovely. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Until next time.